Is this one of the situations where you have to click live like 3 or 4 times?
It might be. It very well might be. So I did hit the live button again. And we're allegedly live on YouTube now.
Yes. Okay, cool. I see us.
Cool.
All right, we're
There
good.
we go. All right. For folks joining on YouTube, hello. We are also live on Twitch for the first time ever, and we're trying to kind of figure this out in real time. But
Yeah.
yes, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm gonna call it. We did it. We're live on both. We can end the stream.
Nice. We did it.
We did it. Happy
Practice run.
Friday. I know, right?
Yes. Happy Friday indeed. How's it going?
It's good. I am excited to not talk about AI this week.
Although it may find its way somehow into the conversation as it always does.
Yeah, for
But
folks who might be new, we usually talk about tech stuff, creativity, and whatever else is on our minds on our weekly live stream here, which is usually 3:30 ish Pacific.
mm,
We're a little closer to 4 today, but that's how it goes.
yeah.
And we've talking a lot about AI stuff live, and then we'll also have interviews with folks where we'll talk about whatever those people do. Trying to do 2 of those a month now. So today we're going to talk through some of this UAP UFO stuff and what that all
Yeah,
means.
this is a very big departure, I think, for us. So we were
Yeah,
talking about it before
and
before
to
stream.
tie this in for folks, last week we came live. We're late. I think we were really late last week, and I was
Yeah.
like, I want to talk about the thing we were talking about, and that was part of what we were talking about because there
Mm.
was a tranche, I think they're calling them.
They're calling them tranches. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interestingly enough, it
a
just might be
tranche of
common
information.
terminology. Yeah.
It's like a metric shit ton, but government speak, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, this is wild. Like nobody seems to know about this, and we're not even talking about it. And then we didn't really want to talk about it on stream because you hadn't had a chance to really look over any of it. I can't say that I'm a UFO aficionado or a UAP aficionado, but I thought it was kind of weird. I've been looking at it for the last couple of weeks. So to catch folks up, you can go to war.gov/UFO, which is a website I never thought I would ever talk about.
I never thought you'd say those words in the same sentence.
Oh man. And if you're just following along at home, the Department of Defense has been renamed the Department of War in the Trump
Right.
administration. And so that's where you get war.gov. I think it used to be dod.gov. It probably still is dod.gov
Yes.
too. And /UFO. I guess if you haven't been following this stuff, UFO stands for unidentified flying object.
Mhm.
And it was changed to UAP at some point in the past, and which stands for unidentified anomalous phenomenon
Anomalous
or
phenomena. Yeah.
something.
Yeah. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean aliens. Just want to throw that out right up front. A lot of people associate it with it, and that's kind of what we wanted to talk through is like what's actually being released, what's going on. Uh, are there aliens? I want to get to that one. I want to be on record. But so yeah, so the last, what was it? I think it was May 8th was the first tranche.
May 8th was the first one, and last week was the second one, I think.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and there.
So as I have not reviewed the documents in full,
Yeah.
so I'm going to be following your lead here.
Really?
Yeah, not in full. I've skimmed them a little bit, but
Yeah,
I
all
knew we
the
were talking about it. I'm like,
10
I don't know if I
million
have the time to read.
pages and hundreds of gig. Yeah. And so for folks to, I guess the geez, I don't even know how to like talk about it. So President Trump created an executive order directed specifically to or I don't even honestly know if it was I don't know if it was an executive order or he put it out on True Social. The official government website
Yeah.
has his True Social post. Presumably this would have been an executive order. Don't
Mm.
quote me on that. But to the Secretary of War and some of the other departments, I think is how it was mentioned. And again, you can go to war.gov/UFO. Again, never thought I would be saying that out loud. To see this, this is not political. I'm just trying to report the facts on this. And some other departments, which include the FBI is in there, the department, what is it? DOI, the Department of intelligence.
Is
It
it?
would have been
I
Tulsi
think
Gabbard's old post. So
okay.
the national security infrastructure of America is very confusing, probably on purpose. But you have like the Central Intelligence Agency chief, which is technically not a cabinet position, but is like
Mm,
always included. And then you have the director of national intelligence, who I believe is a cabinet position, and then kind
mm.
of oversees the CIA, but also not really.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Kind of, but not really, but yeah.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of other shit too. I don't know enough about it. But it's really confusing. And then I think the Air Force is in there, which is under the DoD,
Yes.
but they're really prominent. And then there's some other agencies that I'm not familiar with or as familiar with that have stuff in there too. So it's I guess the idea is that it's everybody in the executive who theoretically reports through the president is supposed to start dumping everything they have related to UAP, UFO. I think he even said like extraterrestrial. It's like a
Well, was it everything, or was it, there were still certain things that they could that was still technically confidential, right? Like, that's why they're releasing in tranches, right? Because
they're
they have to
declassifying.
declassify
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
it,
So
right?
yeah, they're not just like throwing all the files on
Yeah,
the
yeah, right,
internet.
of
They are
course, as it
declassified.
would be
Yeah,
for
and that's
right.
a
I didn't
process.
know
And
if that I
yeah,
didn't know if that included certain details around what that quote unquote evidence might be
yeah. Well,
versus
I'll
just
read it. So this
okay,
was
okay,
yeah,
cool.
war.gov/UFO.
Hmm.
Not sponsored.
Why would they sponsor this? Very interesting, but I don't know why they would.
Yeah. So the True Social post, which is the top of the page, but based on tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the
Hmm,
Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP, and unidentified flying objects, UFO, and any and all other information collected by these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. God bless America. And so that was Donald Trump on True Social. That's reads like an
hmm.
executive order. Again, I don't know if it's an actual government signed executive order. An
Probably
executive order,
not.
for folks who don't know, is literally the president just saying, do this thing.
Hmm.
And then it happens. That's all it is.
There's got to be a foundation though, but for the most part, yeah, I guess that's kind of how it goes nowadays.
It's a formal directive to the executive branch and sometimes the government to
Hmm,
do something. It's all it is. It's it's people make it sound like it's a big deal, but it's just like a proclamation. It's like a memo.
hmm.
And then there's like all the shit that the presidents say that's just like kind of policy inferred, where people are like, ah, this is what we should do with the policy, and then they do it. But an executive order, it's like a mandate. It's like now the government,
An
the
official.
executive branch has to do blank, whatever that order is.
Hmm.
So I believe this is like the first of its kind. I don't know that any other president. There's been teasings of this throughout history, but up until like recently, I don't think anyone's actually like really gone on record and said do it. I don't think
With
anyone's
respect
ever
to
said
releasing
like,
this, yeah, to releasing this
yeah,
information, right? Yeah.
yeah. So they're releasing that, whatever that means, and they're going through declassification still, right? So there are documents that are redacted. The typical excuses for redacting is methods and sources. So if there's a method
Mhm.
of collecting information we don't want the rest of the world to know we have, we'll redact it. If there's specific individuals or specific identifiable things that we want to keep secret, we'll keep those secret. But the idea behind declassification and also just frankly American democracy is that we, the people of the United States, have a right to know what the government does. And if
Mhm.
everything's classified, we can't know that. So this is part of the system of government, and it's very rare in the rest of the world, right? So it's kind of unique to us. Go us.
Go America. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it's I think it's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so yeah, so here we are. I I remember kind of hearing about this and being like, yeah, okay, because I think Trump campaigned a couple times on uh
Transparency in general.
yeah, the
Yeah.
JFK stuff,
Mhm.
and there was some other topics of interest, I guess you could say, that there are or not conspiracies around. And I think maybe to define the word conspiracies, I feel like I'm going to say that constantly,
Yeah, I was gonna
is
say, it's not a new topic that we've talked about, but
No.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but conspiracy is typically, I think, a group of or a coordinated, known effort to withhold something.
Oh, you're trying to define it right now
Yeah,
for how we want to use it? Okay, all
yeah,
right.
right. And so then a conspiracy can either be completely made up without evidence and fake, and but I think more importantly, a conspiracy can also be real. There are many
Yes,
conspiracies
I think
throughout
that's
history that
very
have
true.
been, labeled kooky or like made up to be proven correctly. Like the Bay of Pigs in Cuba in the 60s is a great example of something that was a conspiracy and then it happened and then they tried to cover it up and make it a conspiracy. Turns out it actually happened.
Mm,
And for
mm,
folks who don't know, the CIA and a couple other agencies got a bunch of people together who were Cuban nationals and invaded Cuba with them and gave them
mm,
arms and tried to overthrow Castro. Like that's a real thing that happened and that wasn't, I don't
right.
think, technically declassified until like the 90s. So, and it was a conspiracy until it was, technically done. Um, that doesn't mean a conspiracy can't be known either. But I think where I want to try to disentangle this, and like we were talking a little bit before we went live,
Mhm.
is that I want to like talk through, kind of separate like what does this mean, and then dive into some of the possibilities of like is it even, are aliens even possible? Because I think they get intertwined so much, and then there's always like this religious coefficient that gets tied in too. And I think you have to separate the three kind of pieces of information out of like, is this technology? Is this aliens? Or is this some kind of other third category of stuff? Or maybe none of the above.
Right, and I think for maybe those who have not heard of us before, since this is the first time we're on Twitch, I think part of the reason we're doing this is both of us
Create
really
alien
like the
cast.
idea of critical thinking, right? Like
Yes.
in many of these scenarios, when you're presented with information, you can easily dismiss it for one reason or another. But part of the critical thinking exercise is okay, take the other stance for a little
Yeah.
bit, see how it might even be possible. What is the line of thinking that got you there? What is the line of thinking that gets someone else there?
Yeah.
And then can you sort of resolve that, the discrepancy there? So I thought that was a fun way to present this exercise. So
I
here we are.
agree.
We're
And that's
trying
what
to
we
do
were talking
it.
about before we went live
Yeah.
last week, was like, this is a perfect example of there's so many claims being made. We talk a lot about AI, so I will talk a little bit about AI. Uh, I vindicated. I just want to throw that out there. I was right. Just let the whole internet just like soak that in.
Did
I
you say
put
that
out
last
a
week or was it the week before?
I
There
put it
was
I put
reason.
out a yeah, I put out a proclamation a couple weeks ago and I said something to the tune of, once the AI companies uh IPO, which means they get all their shares exchanged for real money. Everybody cashes out. All of a sudden, AGI, which is the super intelligence that's going to take over everyone's job, is going to be much further in the distance, and they're going to downplay and backtrack. And there was an article this week in Forbes where that's exactly what's happening. Shockingly enough, because they when you go public, when you IPO, initial public offering, you have to prove your claims, right? And now all of a sudden you can say anything you want, right? It's America, it's a free country. There's some rules on free speech, but frankly, we have like none compared to the rest of the world. But when you start exchanging money on the stock market, you can't just make shit up. There's a bunch of rules you have to follow, and there's due diligence that has to be done, even though those documents are not necessarily completely true all the time either. And there's ways to mislead people, but
Yeah, yeah.
you have to be able to
Mhm.
prove it. And that's kind of this era that we're in, and that's why I thought this UFO stuff, UAP stuff, was so interesting, because it's kind of a trust me moment. It's a trust me bro moment, as they
Yeah,
say.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so I guess for folks like, there's the Roswell shit. I'm sure everybody knows about that now, where there was
Area
allegedly
51. Yep,
aliens
yep.
crash
Mhm,
landed, and we have them in Area 51. And Obama came
mhm,
out couple of months or I think a month ago now and said, yeah, there's aliens. I haven't seen him. And he backtracked it. And there's all this weird kind of stuff. And the conspiracy is always to point to anecdotal evidence, accumulate a massive anecdotal evidence. And now all of a sudden you have so much quote unquote evidence, even though it's anecdotal and it's not directly factual, that everyone just starts believing that something's happening, or they just reject it completely. And the truth
mm,
is usually somewhere, like every time, in the middle, in the gray area, the nuances.
right.
So stuff's kind of come here and there. But what's interesting about this May 8th stuff is that this is the first time that the government has like broadly acknowledged that there's a bunch of shit that we don't quite understand.
Mm,
It's happening. Like you can't. There's no conspiracy here. Like there we are capturing stuff on highly advanced sensors in our most advanced warplanes, in our most advanced detection systems for nuclear missiles and everything else. There's shit in the oceans on our ships and submarines. It's like every kind of plane of existence we're familiar with. We have all sorts of evidence in the military defense space that just doesn't make sense.
mhm.
That's factual. That's true. And I thought that was, I think, the most interesting thing on what happened on May 8th. I was like, oh, they've admitted they don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably the biggest thing to take out of that is the admission or the humility to say that, hey, something happened and we have no idea how to explain it, kind of thing, which is typically not something you would expect of a superpower organization to admit, right?
Yeah, because the implications for this are I've seen the kind of two lenses. Like it's aliens, of
Mhm.
course. I'm gonna keep pushing
It's
that one
always,
to
that's
the
always a
end.
possibility. It's always a possibility. It's aliens. It's always a possibility.
Or it's a foreign adversary, right? It's Russia or China or you name another, organization in the world who doesn't like us, who has stuff that is incurring in our airspace, and we don't have control over our own territory anymore. That's a big
Yeah.
problem. And I would agree with that. If that's true, that's a huge problem. And
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why I think this kind of conversation does need to happen because if this is real and stuff is happening that we can't explain or don't understand, we need to understand it,
So,
right? You
can
can't
you?
just have stuff flying around America that we don't know, right? Like that's bad.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to understand. Is like I am struggling to see the perspective of course that's always the case, right? When you don't understand something, we quote
Yeah,
unquote have to understand it is usually one of the defenses. But I mean, if you take a step back, like there are lots of things that we as humans don't fully understand just right here on Earth, right? But we
yeah,
have no urge or pressing desire to go and fully understand what it is. So there's this mix between like this idea of we need to know how it's done, plus this idea of we need to know how it's done so we can protect ourselves,
yeah.
which I think is kind of like mixing things together. But then the question becomes like, why is the first thing you assume some malintent? I don't know.
Well, because it
That's
always
where
comes out
I
of the defense security industry. That's what they do, right?
that's what they do.
Everything
That's
that's their job.
sure.
It's threat assessment. Is it dangerous? Yes. Is it gonna kill me? No. Okay, then can we kill it? Yes. Is it gonna kill me? Maybe. Can we kill it? I don't know. That's a problem, right? Like,
Well, I think
that's
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 like
the that's the thought tree.
right, right. But like that mind or that mentality, if you apply it to something like this, where okay, so say it is, even if it were say something more close to Earth, like a contrarian country or whatever, if they
Yeah,
have this level of technology and we have no idea how it works, why do we think we can all of a sudden jump to the level of understanding that they had to build whatever it was that they had so that we can actually
sure.
all of a sudden surpass it and depend like there's just a gap there that's like missing, right? And it's like
Yeah.
we assume that we could just make that jump, and all of a sudden, never mind, we got it all figured out. But that's only half of it, right?
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of implications there. So I guess like okay, so we've kind of covered base one.
Hmm,
The government has acknowledged that weird shit is
yeah,
happening that we don't quite understand. The branching logic of that tends to be it's aliens, it's some sort of technological thing that either we ourselves are doing or other countries are doing. It's some sort of anomalous earth-based thing, magnetic fields, air currents, whatever you want to call it. Uh, or there's probably one more in there, probably like some kind of spiritual deity thing that we can't understand that every religion
that's
has
always
some
yeah. Yeah, I
variation
was
of
gonna say that's
like
always an answer as well. Yeah,
God
some
intermixing
super
with
yeah.
people and angels and demons and demigods and all these kind of ideas have permeated. I'm gonna put those all in one side because I think that's like
Mm,
just you have to believe those exist, period. So again, with critical thinking and kind of reducing this, like, sure, it's possible, but I
yeah,
just
those are like
there's
your
no
axioms.
evidence.
right,
because it's the nature of religion is to believe. So if you believe,
right.
great. If you don't believe, fine. But there's no there is by definition of the word belief, there is no evidence. And you can believe there's evidence, but there just isn't. So is there unknown atmospheric phenomenon? Sure. I think there's probably all sorts of weird shit that happens all over the world that humans haven't seen, or we've just recently invented some new sort of sensor technology that we're being exposed to, and maybe it's just always been like this. I think that's totally possible. I think it's boring,
Right.
and I kind of want it to be something else, but it is possible, right? We could just
Sure.
be seeing some sort of, we didn't know about coronal discharges from the sun for like until like what, 20, 30 years ago. And even then
Right.
we never really saw them. And now we have the technology to see them. And it turns out they happen all the time.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Oops. We're like,
That's
oh, it's
part
a
of the
rare thing. Oh my God. And then it's like, actually it happens like every minute or something. It's just like totally mundane, but we didn't have
right.
the technology to know.
Yeah.
So then I think there's adversarial technology. I think that's the one I wanted to double click on because we were talking a little bit before. Sure, I think all of this stuff is plausible because we don't know what it is. I'm not going to sit here and tell you aliens exist. I'm not going to tell you they don't exist. I don't know. I don't have any evidence
Mm.
other than what's been released, and what's been released has been like, I don't know what that is. No one knows what
Right.
it is, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
there, I guess. Like, I don't know, it could all be made up too. Who knows? But I'm taking the government at its word that it's not totally making us all up. Okay, great. We don't know what it is. From that perspective, though, I think like that is a national security problem. If another group of people on this planet has developed technology that and I think why does this matter? Some of the captures
Mm.
of whatever these are bend our understanding of physics. They have rapid acceleration that goes, tens of thousands of miles an hour instantaneously. We don't know that how to do that. Like theoretically, it's possible. The amount of energy required would be exponential, or you would have to bend face time is the only
Mm.
other way that I'm aware that you could do it. And again, theoretically possible, also massive
Yeah.
amounts of energy. And we don't see the energy input or output happening. It's just like zip, there it goes. They'll stop on a dime. They'll make weird, turns that our pilots couldn't make because they would die. They would splat up
From the G
against the
forces.
physical
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
structure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Or the
They'll
machinery itself wouldn't be able to handle the
exact
forces.
yeah, the material that the stuff we have built, their ships and submarines and planes would just explode and would not survive. They'll transverse, they'll go from water to air to land and like have absolutely no
Change in velocity or something like that.
change.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just like they're
Yeah.
completely unfazed. That's impossible. Again, if anybody who's ever been on water, yeah, it's pretty malleable until if you ever done water skiing and hit, you kind of skip off. Right? And
Yeah.
water is a really weird substance because it also repels. There's a lot of resistance with water and
Mm.
liquid. And when you're going through water, anybody who's ever been on a boat, there's a drag that happens. And so the faster you go, on a boat, the more the water goes around your boat, but then it starts to kind of suck you back. And there's all sorts of physics you have to do to try to get
Yeah.
out of that. And for folks who have probably seen ships, there's these like big round bulb things on the front of a lot of them, and it sits just under the water. And what that'll do is it'll break up the
Surface tension
forces
of the
coming
water.
in, yeah,
Yeah.
and the surface
Right.
tension to make you go faster through the water. It also uses less fuel. And so we can do like 20 miles an hour that way. These things are going like 10,000 miles an hour and then just go into the water.
Supposedly. Yeah. Right.
And
Okay.
anyone who's like shot a bullet into water knows that, bullets going a few hundred miles an hour, it stops instantly and it
Mm.
basically sinks. So even something that's really small and really fast, that when it goes into water pretty much comes to an immediate halt. So that's
Mm.
again, the fluid dynamics is not something I remember a lot about, but it's a really, really weird physics.
Yeah.
And we don't have any idea how you would, well, at least I'm not aware of any idea on how you would actually like go into the water at 500 miles an hour, let alone 10,000 miles an hour.
Right. I think that's what I find so interesting about like the defenses behind uh so when you think about some of these things that we're seeing that we can't quite explain, we currently don't have the realm of knowledge to fully explain it. You can theorize some things based on what we currently know, but
Right.
what I find a lot of defenses I hear are like, there's because this thing can do it, there must be some way, right? So there's already, in my opinion, like an
Mhm.
assumption that there's a
Yeah.
way to do it, and not that what you saw or what you measured was not right, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I
It's
saw it, it
confirmation
must have happened.
bias, right? Yeah.
Exactly, right,
Yep.
exactly. So I saw it happen, so there must be a way to do it. But
Yep.
as an exercise of critical thinking, maybe that's not the case. Maybe what you saw was not right, or the data you have was wrong,
Yep.
right? So like, there's a bias towards thinking about how things could have been versus maybe what I'm working
Yeah.
off of is not correct.
I I
Um,
I think that's I think that's a really good point, and I think, like, a lot of the video evidence that we have is advanced military sensors, mostly out of planes,
mm,
some ship stuff too, and there's some other stuff. It's not everything, but a bulk of it is, like, these next generation, they call them sensors for tracking stealth planes.
yeah.
I don't know how it works. A lot of how it works is classified, but uh, it hasn't been until recently we've had this technology and we've kind of talked through it. Like it's very possible it's buggy. Like I would like to
Mm,
think they've done their due diligence and like debugged it, and then like it can't possibly be a sensor malfunction until it is. You know, we both work in tech, we both work with hardware and software. It's all great until it's not, or you hit an
yeah.
edge case that just doesn't, you know, again, this could, let's just thought experiment. It could be some uh, electromagnetic atmospheric thing that we didn't know existed, and then we're picking up on it now for the first time. Like, was it the trade winds? We still don't quite understand that wind pattern, something that we've been using since the 1600s to traverse the
Oh,
Atlantic,
interesting. Yeah,
and we're still not quite exactly sure like where they're going to be. Like we have to throw out balloons, and even then it kind of varies, but they're between whatever latitudes they are
yeah.
always. Like that's kind of the rule, but you have to find them, and that used to be the hard part, and if you couldn't find them, you were screwed. You're just out in the middle of the Atlantic just bobbing, because if you don't have any sort of propulsion, there's no wind,
Right, right,
right? And so, like, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, humans figured that out. We were here for what, a couple thousand years, and then we figured out the trade winds, and then it wasn't until, like, I think it was, like, the 60s or the 70s that we actually, like, mostly understood them.
right.
We've been using something for 300 years that we didn't understand. So I think that's a pretty real possibility. I also, there are eyewitness reports, and there's a lot of them, and
Mhm.
so, and I've seen weird shit at night. I'm sure everybody has. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know what it is. It's a UAP. You know, it's kind of a joke now, right? It's like, oh, it's a UFO. I don't know. I mean, technically, yes, it's flying. It looks like it's flying, and I can't identify it. Pretty
right.
low bar.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I've
I
never
mean,
seen
that's
anything, you
definition.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
what I would consider overly remarkable, but everyone, I know everyone I've talked to has seen crazy shit that you're just kind of, I don't know if that's what that was.
Yeah.
Uh, our brains also are imperfect, right? Our eyes are not, frankly, very good. They're awesome for what they are, but there's all sorts of, you know, mirages come to mind in the desert or in high heat conditions. You'll kind of hallucinate things,
Yep,
and your
yep.
brain is really good at trying to fill in the puzzle. And so you
Exactly.
think
Yep.
you'll see something, and it will be totally different. Like if you've ever mistaken somebody's identity in a crowd, you're like totally, you know, 100%. That's my brother, that's my sister, that's my mom, that's my dad. You're like, hey, and then you're like, the person is like totally not even close. Right. And so part of it is
Right.
our brain and our physical sensors, if you would, our eyes and ears and stuff are also imperfect. So I think there is a very real possibility there's just, you're either seeing stuff that your brain's trying to fill in, or you might be not seeing things and think you
Yeah,
do.
yeah. I mean, there's also the stacking possibility of this group. I don't know if it's necessarily groupthink, but something
Mhm.
happens when you're within a group of people and you're all corroborating each other's stories. It just
Yeah.
makes it feel more real
Well,
to your
group
to see
hallucinations
that.
are real.
Yeah, yeah, right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So like,
It's uncommon, but it's real. And I think like these, a lot of these explanations sound kind of boring, but a lot of times shit's boring.
yeah,
Anyone who's ever done science, tried to invent something, you go through a million permutations of stuff that's just not interesting and fun until you succeed. And that's just
mhm,
part of creativity and part of investigation. I do think that, assuming that it's what we're seeing captured is real, right? So
Mhm.
let's remove all of what we just talked about. Let's just assume that, yes, there's some anomalous thing. We all agree that it's not our brain malfunctioning, it's not the sensors malfunctioning. The idea that humans on this planet have invented something that no other human could conceivably conceive of, I think is
Mm.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just not how it works. It's magical
Mhm.
thinking, right? It's like, sure, theoretically, you can go from 0 to 10,000 miles an hour with some crazy energy source that we, like the math is the math. We don't know how to do it, but we like, okay, we understand. It's like AI, right? We don't know why AI chooses what it does, but we understand the core process of how AI functions.
Right.
Electricity is another example, right? You flip on the
Yeah.
switch, it works. Most people have no idea why. And then the more you know about electricity, the less you really think you understand about anything
Yes.
because it
Like
doesn't
a
make
lot
a
of
lot
things,
of
actually, to
sense.
be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah, to be honest, like a lot of things, but yeah.
Yeah. So I just think that yes, the stuff's theoretically possible, but for it to have been developed in secret and no one else knowing, or this there's always some kind of grand cabal, where there's a small
Yeah.
group of people in control of everything. I, maybe again, I'm not gonna like yes or no any of this stuff, but I just everyone in the world has a fucking camera in their pocket,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that like it's only military people seeing this is a little weird, evidentially. Only
I see what
intelligence
you mean. Okay.
people. It's kind of, this stuff is happening over Phoenix, or and you'll see every once in a while there'll be some weird lights over a city, and oh my god, what is it? And it's like, oh, I don't know, it looks like weird lights.
Mm.
But the amount and frequency of this stuff being claimed by a lot of these so-called like whistleblowers or outsiders, but it's only people like in the defense industry is weird,
Mhm.
right? And the fact that more people, just normal average people, aren't being like, I was driving down the highway and I saw this weird thing and here's a photo, and it's like not super descript, but like there it is. That is depending upon light, right? Photons, and if
Mhm.
these things can bend light, I guess then all bets are off. But then how do you see them with your eyes?
Yeah, exactly. I think that was one of the other points, right? It was like if this superhuman technology that we don't know of can do some of the things that bend physics, why can we even detect them at all? Like, why do we
Yeah.
have the current technology to be able to see something that can theoretically break through speed limits that we have never been able to figure out before?
And to
Like,
your point
why all of a sudden do
earlier,
our instruments? Yeah,
it's kind of the reductio of like, I saw it, therefore it has to be
yeah,
real.
yeah. Right, right. Yeah.
Where, I've seen all sorts of weird stuff in the sky too, and you're like, you see clouds that kind of look like shit, and I'm not trying to like dispel these people either, because like again, I'd be very surprised if all of these people are just like seeing weird shit and then like writing up reports and like, but maybe they are, I don't know. um but again, I just don't see the technological component. And then some of the arguments for this will also be that aliens have crashed or extraterrestrial ships have crashed and we've reverse engineered it. And I think like, let's play with that one for a minute. Like,
Yeah.
one, how fucking arrogant do you have to be to think that the human monkey brain can like disassemble technology that allows you to bend space-time?
Mm,
Like, in order to go any distance of meaningful measure in the universe, you have to effectively bend space-time. And like theoretically it's possible. Special relativity has all sorts of weird provisions that you don't necessarily have to go faster than light. You can move the speed limit, which doesn't make any sense, but it's how it works. I don't know what else to tell folks. Theoretically, you could, I guess, get beyond the speed of light. We have no possible way of fathoming that, right? The only way our understanding of a lot of this stuff works is that the speed of light is a constant and it's understood. If you get rid of
mm,
that, everything it's just anything's possible at that point. And so you can
right.
argue against that. I think that there's again no evidence. If you have evidence, great, argue it, fine. But I just there isn't. And as far as we know, there's no way to do that. And the reason is the faster you go, the more energy you have to basically use. And at a certain point, to actually reach the speed of light, matter, the physical stuff that we interact
We-
with, has to become energy.
Mm,
And that's like mathematically very strange, and physically, like your body now, you're flying in your little spaceship, okay, fine. You get faster than the speed of light. You have to somehow become energy and then somehow become reconstituted in a way that like makes sense. So theoretically, sure, why not,
yeah.
right? I don't know, maybe. It's like Star Trek and the transporters is like, yes, theoretically, like that's a fictional TV show. They have some explanations of how they reconstitute atoms and
Hand
have a,
wavy.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
pattern, and it's all really hand wavy and it's fun to think about, but it's like the reality is there's no evidence that that's possible. But if you could, let's just assume for fun you can, you crash here, which I'm like, if you can fly across the universe and bend space time, how are you crashing?
Yeah, why would you end up crashing?
Right? Number one, how are you crashing? That's a big oops. You get a little fender bender, you know, like you have a problem, like you crashed your like intergalactic space-time bending time machine thing.
Right,
Like and I say that as kind of a jest because if you're actually bending space-time, you don't really interact with matter.
right,
And
exactly.
so
So there's
the
no right.
idea of crashing doesn't work because if you're I don't know if I want to give a physics lecture. You can think of space-time like the ship is a good analogy, right? You're existing on space-time, you're going through it, there's some resistance when you meet the water. To bend outside of space-time would do effectively put a bubble around your ship where the water no longer has any drag on it. You can go as fast as you want because the water effectively doesn't exist until that this magic bubble stops, and then all of a sudden you're hit with the water. The thing I love about these space-time bending theories is that theoretically it's possible. The reality would be, I guess, you would create this mythical space-time shield, would
Mm,
accumulate matter and like energy effectively around it. And you would, it's like instead of like going across the water, you're kind of like going into the water, but instead of the water being like liquid, it's more of like a sludge. And so you create this
mm,
like tremendous space-time drag, like theoretically. And so when you stop, all of that space-time shit then would like effectively collide
crash
with
into you.
you.
Right,
And
right, right. It
I think
collapses.
it's
Yeah.
gamma radiation. Lots of it would happen. And so you would probably irradiate yourself if you could do this. So you'd have to somehow solve that problem too. And you know, if you think about pushing pebbles on a beach or something, you accumulate this massive pushback. And like
Mm,
space-time, again, who knows, but like from what I understand of our theoretical understanding, it's a similar principle in that you don't go through space-time, you just kind of impede its effects. But then at some point, to like balance the equation, you have to figure out a way to re-enter space-time.
mm,
And then what, right? And so the special relativity experiments are always time is relative to the observer. And so as you're traveling at the speed of light or faster than the speed of light or whatever, you would appear effectively frozen to everybody around you, but everything around you would be going at like normal time for you. It gets really weird and screwy, right?
yeah, yeah. There's some like black hole thought experiments that
So
describe
again,
similar
I don't know
phenomena,
how
right?
you crash
Mm, mm.
or how you could be shot down. You know, that's the other one, like a missile or a
Yeah,
bullet.
yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
kinetic forces. If you're going through space time, you've kinetic physics shouldn't matter,
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's
Shouldn't.
the thing that I that's the thing I always try and understand is when like we're operating here right now in the realm of what we know of physics right now. And some of the things I hear are like, oh, these things that we see break our model of physics. So there's some way to explain
Yeah.
something outside of what we know, and that's how it's possible. But then it quickly devolves into a realm of if you have no axioms, like you don't have any rules, then
Yeah.
anything is possible, right?
Exactly. No,
So then
that's a
it's like
really good point.
that's what
Yeah.
I can't click those two together. It's like, well, I only know what I know. So if you're gonna talk about things I don't understand, I can't participate. I don't understand what you're
Right.
trying to say, right?
And sure, our understanding of physics, and you get into quantum, you know, quantum entanglement comes up a lot. That's I,
Yeah.
I would say fairly understood for quantum reality stuff. It gets really nutty quantum. Um, but I agree. Okay, sure, maybe, but give me the evidence of how this
Yeah.
would work,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because like if you like, and this is part of the problem that we have with physics today is we understand quantum physics with a certain set of rules. We understand what we call classical physics, which is what everybody interacts with every day with a certain set of rules. And then there's like galactic, or like, I'm gonna call it galactic physics, which is also kind of a different set of rules.
Oh,
It
epic.
aligns a
Okay.
lot more with classical physics, but when you talk about like galaxies moving
Oh, on a
across
massive
on a
scales.
massive scale, like weird shit happens that we don't quite understand. Like the whole dark matter thing is kind of one of these ideas that
Uh,
it became a placeholder on the very large, because space is mostly empty, but yet there's all these forces that are happening all the time. And the best way that we've found to explain that is like there's a bunch of shit there we can't see.
hmm.
All the physicists are like, "Oh, I hate you." And I'm like, yeah, but basically that's what you're saying. Like,
Yeah, there's a name. Well, there's a phenomenon for this. Like, yeah, once you
yeah,
give it a name, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, we know that
yeah.
exists. We have no idea how it works, but it
Yeah,
has a name. So
and it's a math thing, right? So the part of it's like the math to balance it, that's what it is. And then part of it is like there's a lot of stuff that the math kind of says should be there, but we don't, it's kind of more of like a question mark. Like, yeah, the evidence says it should be there and it's not. And for folks being like, "Ah, well, that's bullshit." And it's like, well, but this is how quantum physics worked, right? We got quarks here, what was it, 5, 6 years ago. The theoretical physicists predicted quarks, which are a subatomic particle,
Mhm.
and we collided a bunch of shit together at CERN, and we proved that they are indeed real, and we observed it. I use quotes because that's the whole thing.
from the numbers, we've observed
But
it.
right,
We've inferred it. Yeah.
right. So we predicted the math, theoretically it's there. And that's why I keep saying theoretically this is possible. Theoretically, this makes sense. Because yes, it does, but we haven't proven it. And I think what I keep coming back to with this is like there's a lot of quote unquote evidence, but there's no proof.
Hmm.
And that's fine. Like maybe there isn't proof. Maybe there is proof and it's just not declassified. I don't know.
Yeah.
But people are getting really spun up. And again, I keep seeing these same parallels with the same thing with AI. So I have a really hard time believing that there's a group of people in some sketchy lab in Russia or China or North Korea or
Yeah.
wherever, Canada. It's okay. I love you, Canada.
Maybe, I don't know.
If you've been space time, let me know, Canada. I'm in. Um, but I have a hard time. I just because we are, you would have to be so far beyond. Like this isn't like
Right.
computing where it was like, oh yeah, we created transformers, 2012-ish and the deep neural nets, and we can kind of do some things with like 2 GB models, and that's insane now, right? Because the models are massive, they're terabytes big, but it's like that
Yeah.
was a big deal. And then 10 years later, we have data center scale compute where you have millions of you know gigawatts of power, and you have these magical so-called capabilities of AI. This is like 5 or 10 steps beyond that.
Mm.
Right, and okay, again, maybe, sure, I'll sit and I can't maybe on that, but, where's that gap? Like, that would be such, and, like, this isn't like a couple people in a room problem either, like, this is probably hundreds of people needed to, like, if let's just assume that humanity is bent space-time physics, or we've developed some sort of shit. Like,
Yeah.
that's not Andrew and Nathan, like, hammering away in a lab somewhere. That's, like, hundreds of people who are, like, the top of their
Right.
fields of
Right.
study,
Like Manhattan
and,
Project
like,
level. Yeah.
right, and they would have had to been trained somewhere, and they would have had to consume this knowledge somewhere. So, the aliens probably trained them, right? That's probably what people are saying.
I mean, I was going to say is like another maybe conspiratorial line of thought is if there were some subset of people who somehow had figured out this AGI, quote unquote AGI, that the AGI was the thing that actually discovered all the things that you would need to leapfrog all of
That's
humanity's
it.
inventions.
Got it. It's
So
just
more
it's an
AI.
elaborate conspiracy to get to drip feed us AI so that they can then reveal aliens. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Um, but at the same time, I think that if it is that, like,
Mhm.
that's bad, right? That would be really
Yeah.
bad. If anybody in the world, frankly, had that level of technology, the amount of imbalance is fucking crazy.
Mhm.
Because like not even nukes matter at that point because it wouldn't apply. Probably,
Mhm.
maybe. It's hard to say. There's a lot of energy involved, so maybe you could do some damage, but like
I mean, if you don't interact with matter, just warp the nuke away. And
Yeah, the energy, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, but like that's one thing I don't quite have enough understanding around high energy stuff, because then you start getting into plasma too, which is a whole thing that no one ever talks
Mm.
about, which is technically matter, but also not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the interesting thing about this topic is like it does, like earlier you mentioned the spirituality stuff, and there are a few technical people who are in the spiritual realm who talk about energy being the
Yeah.
only thing that really exists, and it's the different manifestations and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting because when we're talking about all these things that just deal with energy, you can make the argument that once you figure out that it's all energy, you're just
Yeah.
shaping it certain ways and doing things with the rules of energy that we know of,
Yeah.
right? So maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. Again, going back to it's
Well,
outside of my realm of expertise.
and the thing I love that we keep coming back to is we don't know. A
Mm.
lot of these YouTube channels or podcasts, they like have these people on and they're just like, I
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah.
And I'm
They
like, well, if
proclaim
you
these
know,
things.
then tell us and give us some evidence, and don't be like, well, that's classified. But I can basically say that aliens exist and I worked
Yeah.
with them. And I'm like, well, how is that classified? But you're telling us. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And like, maybe again, maybe it is true. And maybe there's some weird legal logic games that everyone's playing. I'm bored with it. Like, put up or
Mm,
shut up is kind of where I'm at.
mm, mm.
Um, so yeah, I don't think it's so I think like the last one is like it is aliens, right? We kind of talk through everything,
That was the last bucket.
everything
Yes,
else
yes, that has to be.
plausible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, aliens is always a plausibility, I guess,
Yeah.
technically, theoretically.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, for that one, I mean, that's the movie plot line, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
And
is.
I
Definitely
think
is.
there's something with humans where we think we're the masters of the universe and we're not. We like to think we're in control, we're not.
Mm.
But at the same time, a lot of us also need this, like, we're also not. And that's where you get like God or spirituality or
I see what
aliens.
you mean.
Like, there
Yeah.
has to be something bigger, there has to be something we don't understand. And then our brain tries to reconcile it with like God or aliens or something, right?
Yeah.
And it I think Obama actually pretty put it best,
Oh,
where
okay. Well, let's see
he
where
said
this goes.
something. I know, right? He said something like, well, I mean, it's like the Drake equation always comes to mind, right?
Mhm.
It's some math that a guy did. I love my science communication
I
for
mean,
this
Drake wasn't
episode.
just
I'm
a
just
random.
like,
Was he? He
it's
wasn't just a
like
random guy, was he?
energy and stuff, and like, if you're
Drake
Edith
equation.
Create,
You can
this
look
is
it
a
up.
great,
Yeah, there's history behind this. You can look it up. We
yeah.
tell people to engage your
I
curiosity.
I believe
Look
he's
up
a
the Drake equation.
mathematician and not like an astrophysicist. And like basically it was like, if I
I
were to
believe
do the
that's
math,
accurate. I
what would
believe that's right.
happen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And he did the math. He made an equation, and the so-called Drake equation. And he basically, quote unquote, proved that it's statistically improbable for there not to be life in the universe. The only problem with that is there's a fuck ton of assumptions that he made to make the math work, because we just don't know. We don't know how
Yeah,
many
yeah.
galaxies we are. So he approximated. And so it's more of a philosophical exercise in him doing that, being not that it's like a mathematical proof, but it's like the numbers are just so astronomically large that it wouldn't make sense for there to be no life in the rest of the conceivable universe. It just doesn't make sense. So like, are
Mm,
there aliens? Sure. I think my question is like, do they have the ability to come here?
right.
Uh, why the fuck would they come here?
I was gonna
I
say
don't know.
that's the cherry on top. Is even if they did have technology, like what about our civilization? It's a very
Yeah.
anthropocentric way of thinking about it, right? A
Yeah.
very human centric way of like, oh yeah,
It,
we're so important that aliens that have this technology want to come visit us.
right. And it, so okay, yeah. I mean, it seems pretty unlikely that there is no other intelligent life. I mean, there's plenty of intelligent life on this planet, right?
Mhm.
Animals are intelligent. Maybe they're alive, maybe they have souls, like all this whole stuff. I don't really care about those arguments. They're clearly here and they're alive and they're not stupid. Anyone who's ever had a pet knows that, they learn.
Mm.
They're not us, but they're not definitely not incapable. and we have all sorts of other life on this planet that we don't know anything about. Like the ocean's full of stuff that we're still
Yeah.
finding weird shit all over the planet, and we're like, that couldn't possibly be here, and oh shit, it is. So great. um and I think the idea that it has to be carbon based is also kind of interesting. Like the organic chemistry we know a lot about, right? But as like humans, but uh I don't see why there couldn't be other forms of life.
Mm,
I think it would be weird from like our perspective, right? They probably wouldn't
right.
have arms and hands and fingers, and they'd be totally different. But I mean, trees are a form of life, and like they're conscious or not, like that's a whole debate. But like there could be a whole planet teeming with, that kind of life that it's not going to build a spaceship and fly away.
Mm, mm, mm.
Bacteria is always pointed at, viruses, like these
Yes. Right.
microscopic organisms could be all over the universe, and like they're not going to invent a radio to like send signals, but there could be planets full of this stuff that, either hasn't evolved or we're special, like who knows. Like, so I think that's I think it's impossible for us to like be the only intelligent place. I do think it's rare as fuck if it
That we
is.
would be the
I think just
that we would be the only.
intelligence or life is rare from everything we've seen,
Oh, oh, oh,
in
oh,
our
the
solar
idea that
system.
there's a rarity.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Right.
And yeah. And what it was I listening to something where they were talking about like the size of the earth relative to the sun, and the earth, it would, in order to just cross the equator of the sun would take 160 some earths. So that's how much
Okay.
more massive the sun is than earth.
Right.
And we're like, I think 1,000 earths away. So if you were to put earth next to earth next to earth, it would take like 1,000 to touch the sun. And it's just an illustration of how like massive the numbers and the scale is. Like I don't think human brains can even comprehend how like big it is out there.
Hmm.
And again, that to me even makes, even if there are aliens and they have super technology, like you're still talking, years to have
Right.
any meaningful distance travel, even at like the speed of light. It takes, what is it? The next star system from us is like 4 years for light to go. So if you can
Four
go
light
as
years.
fast as,
Yeah.
yeah, as fast as the speed of light in your space car, it still takes you 4 years to get there. Right. So you're living in a little Apollo capsule or the moon lander capsule, something that's, they describe the size of a tent, and we can barely
Yeah.
keep people alive for like a week. But yet we're gonna somehow do that for 4 years and exceed like the speed of light, or like get basically there. Like,
Well, I think that's why the whole thing of like once it goes outside the realm of we know as rules of physics, then anything's possible, right? Because I think there's
yeah.
descriptions around okay, you just leverage wormholes or some sort of way to bypass the whole
Yeah,
speed of
but
light
wormholes aren't
rule, and then
real
once you do,
though. That's
that's
science
what I'm trying to get
fiction,
at. That's what I'm
right?
trying to get at is this like the theoretical idea
Well,
behind the wormhole. If you had some sort of force to hold the wormhole
yeah.
open to get something, right? But you just need an immense amount of energy to do something like that, like holding a wormhole
Well,
open.
theoretically. Uh
Theoretically, exactly.
yeah. So I think wormholes come from quantum tunneling. I don't
Correct.
know the
Uh,
ontology of
maybe.
wormholes
I don't
in
know.
science fiction, but I believe, or well, I don't know, maybe they predate. I think it's a clever literary device to get you from point A to point B.
I mean, oh, yeah, sure, sure.
Right?
It definitely is. It
Yeah.
absolutely is.
But
Yeah.
there's, a lot of quantum physics. Quantum tunneling is a thing where you can theoretically move through a quantum
Through
tunnel,
space. Yeah.
and you bypass space time. And the idea that a wormhole that you can traverse it and go great distances really fast with low limitations is like, okay, fine, that maybe. Again, quantum physics and classical physics and astrophysics don't
Oh, yeah.
jive
They
as
don't
it is as
exactly.
we
Right.
understand.
Right.
So okay, let's just solve all that, I guess. um and I also don't know, like, I just try to imagine, like, okay, we've solved all these problems,
Mm,
why would you go?
yeah.
Like, I'm super curious. Like, that's the whole podcast is like Andrew wants to learn shit about stuff, right? That's the whole. Sorry, folks. That's what
Yes.
this
Yeah.
is. Like, and then I like record it and I share it with people because I think other people are probably interested. partly why we're talking about this, because I'm like, this is crazy. I don't know what else. I don't know what to make of it. Let's
Yeah,
just talk about it.
you, you mentioned this topic to me several times before we had this
Right?
cast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just like, I don't know. This is weird. But and people, like maybe you would have like aliens who are like the Lewis and Clark type people. I'm going to go into the great unknown woods and like map the United States. Well, I
yeah,
don't know, right? I also just feel like if you've solved all the problems to get there, you have like unlimited energy, you would theoretically have unlimited food, like you would theoretically be able to like rearrange the replicator from Star Trek is a real reality. Anything you could ever want, you just throw some rocks in one side and then poops out some whatever, right? Like
yeah,
you've
yeah.
mastered these levels of technology. Why drive across the universe in your space car? Like
Right, right.
maybe
I
you're
mean,
bored. I
maybe.
don't know,
Yeah,
right?
I was actually going to suggest that maybe that's a testament to the curiosity element. Maybe that's if it actually surpasses or goes through all of uh the barriers that we actually get anywhere, right? Like
Yeah,
there is that's one of the things I was thinking about for when we do hear about like this technology that say hypothetically it does, there's a push for us to, oh, we need to understand it, we need to invest more resources
yeah,
to learn about it. And then going back to like the why, is it to defend ourselves if something were to happen? Or I've heard arguments that if we did understand the technology, all of a sudden these limits that we had for infinite energy are now actually possible. We can improve the lives of so many people.
yeah.
There's very, in my head, there's like an atelic moment around just understanding that you'll never understand enough.
Yeah.
So like, what's the drive to really move any action towards doing anything about
Yeah.
learning about what these UAPs or UFOs are? There's got to be something you
It,
want out of it.
and that's one of the arguments like against the Drake equation is that sure there's millions of civilizations out there or whatever, but any civilization that's technologically sufficient enough to be able to do this would have killed themselves with the technology far
Yeah.
beyond far before they
Mhm.
actually were able to get it right. That's the nuclear war problem.
Yeah.
um so yeah, that I got that could be too, that the natural evolution of all life is that they invent technology that is so powerful that they end up using it to try to kill each other off and then do.
Mm.
Sad, but I mean, I don't, why not, right? If we're removing all the
Why not?
fucking, if we're getting through
Yeah.
space time, everything's possible. But I
Right.
do think that like, what is the motivation? um the thing that I kind of see, and again, I'm not an aficionado, but I've watched some clips on YouTube and like read some stuff, and it seems like everybody always points to like nuclear weapons or
Mhm.
nuclear explosions as like a reason. So it's like uh one of the analogies I've heard was, if you don't care about the ants in your backyard until they like come inside,
Right.
and now
Right.
they're in your
Right.
kitchen, you're like, ah, I'm gonna murder you all now, right? Like maybe not everyone, maybe some people are like, oh, that's really unfortunate, but most people are like, I'm just gonna murder you all and poison the whole colony.
Those are extremes. Maybe some people are somewhere in the middle. But yeah,
Well, I'm talking like infestation, right? You get like hundreds of ants all over
sure.
your kitchen or something, you're gonna like, most people are gonna just poison the whole colony.
Right, right,
Um,
right.
but I don't think people are even intellectualizing that either. And I'm trying to make a point with that too, because like you are like, you do the little poison trap on the counter, like you're literally genociding the whole colony
Yeah,
of ants.
because the intention is they bring that poison back to the
Right.
hive and then they distribute it, and all of a sudden, yeah.
Want to be clear there with folks. But so that's the thing, I guess, with aliens and humans, is like we invented nukes, and like that's a big deal for some reason. And then they got interested, and so like the idea would be like, okay, the ants are in your kitchen, oh no, I'm
Oh,
going to get
oh.
rid of them. Now if the ants had nukes, now all of a sudden everyone in the neighborhood's going to be like, what the shit? The ant colony's literally gone nuclear, you know and they're shooting like little rockets out of their ant hill. Like you're like, holy crap, like I gotta do something about this, right?
Yeah, I guess. I guess
Right,
it's
yeah.
theoretically possible.
Yeah, or like the squirrels in your yard just develop nuclear weapons and start bombing stuff, or like have, flight, it sounds silly, but I mean, I
Right.
sure, right? Why not? And so maybe, nuclear weapons are bad, frankly, like,
That's the agreed upon. Yeah, that seems to take away
yeah,
here. So nuclear weapons are
nuclear
bad.
weapons are bad. I One thing on nuclear weapons, I think the best commentary I've ever seen is there's an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, not to spoil it, but they go back in time
Hmm.
and they're trying to figure out where the hell they are. And they're doing all these scans, they're in their ship and Star Trek, this is set 2000 or 1,000 years in the future or something. So they have all this magic technology. They don't have time travel, except for some of the universes they do. But for the most part, they don't have time travel. And it's science fiction for the record.
Hmm.
But
You
they
gotta
end up,
explain it. Yeah.
yeah, so they're like doing the scans and they find traces of like plutonium in the atmosphere. And they're like, oh, that's weird. Like that's really toxic. And like in the Star Trek canon, everything's kind of biological for the most part. And like nuclear radiation's bad.
Hmm.
Everybody is pretty much susceptible to that. So they don't screw with nukes. And they're like, and one of the alien species was like, why is there so much, like, what the hell happened? Like, was there some kind of like an attack or something? And they're like, oh, no, no, no. And then they figure out that it's like Earth from like the 19 like 80s, I think it was,
Interesting.
or the 60s. And they're like, oh yeah, that's when they were testing all the nuclear weapons and stuff. And the alien was just like flipping out. They're like, they irradiated their own planet. And that always sticks in the back of my mind, right? Because it's, and I don't think people realize this, but people who were born before all of the atomic testing don't have certain isotopes in their body. Everyone
Mm,
else
mm,
born
mm.
after does. And the people who, everybody who's lived on the planet and has eaten stuff, we all have these isotopes now and we're identifiable.
Yeah, yeah.
And because the radioactivity decays to the point where it doesn't necessarily harm us, but it's still there. And it's there
Mm,
for like thousands of years in some cases, depending upon the isotopes. So when you start thinking about like, life is rare and you want to, cherish it, and then you have this these monkey people blowing shit up on the planet, like maybe there is some sort of intervention that needs
mm.
to happen, right? And they're like, hey, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Stop
you
killing your.
know
Yeah, yeah. Mm,
like a kid on a stove, you're like, nah, don't do that, you're gonna get hurt.
interesting.
um so yeah, I don't know, I mean, that's more philosophical, I think, than anything, but sure, why not, right? The aliens don't want us to have nukes. I don't have a problem with that one.
Yeah,
uh, I,
yeah.
I know we're coming up at an hour. We try to keep these at a half an hour. For me, I
But
guess,
aliens, man.
I know, but aliens,
But yeah,
I don't know. I still have a hard time with why would they care? I just don't.
yeah,
I mean, if you can bend space time,
yeah.
why, right? And even if we have nukes, you just be like, if you could bend space time, you could theoretically stop anything you wanted.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And then why would you
Right.
be invested in the ant colony, right? You like get them out of your kitchen, and now you're like, oh, I'm going to teach them English. You're like, fuck off. You're out in your,
Oh.
ant colony, and I'm back in my house. Like, good, go away, never see you again. And they come in again.
Yeah.
You're like, now I'm going to genocide all of you.
Well, let's try not to that point.
I know. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think people need to understand that, but I, I don't know. The thing I think to take away from this for me is that um, if there is stuff that the government knows, I would hope that they would release it, because like just talking about nukes, like the Manhattan Project's a great example. So like we would, I
Mm,
think, have never invented nuclear weapons or nuclear technology had there not been that in the zeitgeist,
yeah.
right? Like nuclear technology didn't just come out of nowhere, right? It had been theorized. Oof, got to go back in the brain on that one. But I think it was like pretty well understood in the late 1800s. And
Mm.
then we got, was it neutrons? I think we discovered
Uh,
neutrons.
in
And then
the
we're like,
1800s.
wow, this is scary. It's a particle
Yeah,
that can go through
we didn't know that
anything.
was there. Yeah, we didn't know that was there. Yeah,
Ah.
right, right. Yeah, yeah.
And then it was like around the turn of the century, 1910s, there was a lot of math that predated Einstein. And that's where Einstein really kind of put it all together and packaged it up and was like, actually, all this stuff is really possible. And here's pathways to understand like how to go about it. And then like the idea of splitting the atom had been around for a long time, because it was theorized that that's how the sun worked, right? Fission,
Mhm.
fusion, all those kind of things. And uh Einstein pushed that forward a lot along with a lot of other people. But I don't think, had we not had a group of people really focused on that, it
Right.
was a massive effort. There's like tens of thousands of people involved in the Manhattan Project. Everyone thinks it's like 5 people in a lab somewhere. No, there's tens of thousands of people. This is a massive undertaking. But my point is that would have never happened had nuclear understanding not been in the zeitgeist. If that would have been like some conspiratorial secret where only like 10 people in the world knew, we would have never gotten that technology.
Right.
We've never figured it out. And so I guess I hope that if there is something or there is indications that we could get it out and we figure it out. We talk
Right.
about this all the time on the podcast, where if you're not approaching stuff and you're not collaborating with people, you can be the most brilliant person in the world, but you're not going to make any breakthrough. And if we do have crashed alien crafts, I would hope that we would have the best and brightest people in the world being like, what the fuck is this? And not, how did it get here? Right.
Yeah.
And I guess, yeah, sure, scary. Oh my God, they might, abduct us or genocide. I mean, if you have the ability to traverse space-time and we somehow shot you down, I have no problem believing they wouldn't be able to do anything they wanted.
Right. Right.
If aliens exist, right? I have no, like, that level of understanding of reality, like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
we're
I think
throwing rocks at like Jupiter
yeah.
at that point, right?
I mean,
Like,
hey, you might get lucky and hit the eye of the storm and take everything down.
yeah, right. So I would just really hope that, get it disclosed or whatever. There's all this hype, and we cut the hype, get the information out. If there actually is shit, then yeah, let's get the smartest people in the world, a meritocracy, figure it out. What is it? There's a lot of reasons why people don't think that's a good idea. But those people running the world need to like shut the fuck up for a little bit and let the smart people in, and
just
then
just let it happen.
right, let the curious people in and do the thing, right? It makes me sad that if that's actually the case, that we're just so up our own ass that we can't figure it out.
Oh, I mean, that's always the case. The human ego always gets in the
I
way.
know, but the potential, again, if we could actually use this hypothetical technology
Yeah.
that may or may not exist, why not? All of the
Right. Right.
problems that we have now are gone. I mean, I'm sure we create a whole bunch of other problems. We try to blow ourselves up, I'm positive. But,
Yeah.
like we haven't nuked ourselves since, the 40s. I mean, we did, right? We nuked Japan
Yeah.
twice. So like I can't say we've never nuked ourselves, but we were like, holy shit, that's bad. We shouldn't do that anymore. We're just going to threaten about it. And we haven't.
Yeah.
And I hope that we never do.
Mm.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel like humanity like has to grow up. And we've talked about this on the podcast where I feel like we've been stuck as a species in technological development and just like development for a long time, that it's not that progress isn't happening, but I want like the new Apollo era where everyone's really excited to like try shit and push ourselves
Yeah.
further than we thought were possible and develop new technology that who knows what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the through line I'm seeing that I didn't quite consider before. I think like the pursuit of knowledge in itself is fairly admirable, but you have to do it with intellectual humility.
Yeah.
And we have not everyone's on the same page in terms of humans
Yeah.
to move
And
towards
that's
that, right?
okay.
Yeah.
Right. But again, like I want the best and brightest on this shit.
Mm.
If it's real, if there's
Mm.
crashed alien craft, if there's technologically advanced shit that Russia or China or someone else came up with, like I want the smartest people in the world figuring it out.
Right. Right.
And I want it to then be applied to make my life better. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we can go 0 to 10,000 miles an hour instantaneously in something that's like anything smaller than the size of a planet, I want that energy source deployed to the entire world. We have
Mm.
free unlimited energy at that point.
Yeah.
Right? Cool. There's a lot of problems associated with that, but we've solved
Yeah.
a
I was
lot
just
of
thinking,
problems
what's
too.
next? Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
What's next? I
Yeah.
mean, that's maybe a good way to end it. Like, what is next? Okay, we've created some technology or we've discovered some technology. The biggest problem we have is energy. Everything
Mhm.
requires energy. That's why when there's a war in the Middle East and oil prices or oil
Oh,
supply gets
you brought it there.
constrained.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but the point is everything gets more expensive. The people who grow the food use energy to grow the food. The people who ship the food to the distribution center use energy. The people
Use energy.
who
Correct.
ship it to the store, you go to the store, you use energy. Everything is constrained on energy. And so anytime there's a little blip, price of everything goes up, price of gas, price of diesel, price of oil, everything else gets more expensive.
Right.
So if we can solve that problem, economics is fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
lot of people get scared, but what do? You do whatever the fuck you want. Right? You
Yeah.
don't have to have like, and I think this idea too, that if there was some sort of like limitless energy potential thing, like, it's going to take time to apply it. It's going to take time to adapt to it. I'm sure there's some disadvantage, right? There's always a disadvantage with everything. But like, why don't we want that? Like, why wouldn't, yeah, everything changes, but cool. I guess I'm in camp change, and I'm like, I don't understand camp not change. Like, I can get it
Yeah.
intellectually, like it's scary and maybe it blows up and the world ends or whatever. But I'm like, we have nukes. We can end the world anytime. We don't, and hopefully we don't. But like, there's all sorts of problems and dangers and scary shit. But it's like, let's choose to like focus on the positive and like,
Yeah. Right. Right.
try to
I
make it
think
better.
the main argument for the not camp is national security.
I know, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, so if that was the case, or you can bend space time, like I don't even know. My brain doesn't even go there.
Right.
I don't even know what the ramifications of that would be. Even like theoretically, like like energy is underpinning everything and required for
Mhm.
everything. If you could bend space time, then theoretically the amount of time you would have to put in with energy would decrease to zero.
Right. Yeah.
Right? It's the
Everything.
singularity idea that you could
Yeah.
just effectively, if it takes you 100 years to build this thing, you put it in a little space-time bubble and then it just pops out a second later and it's done. This time is relative. So that would be kind of cool.
Mm. Kind of cool. Yeah. Seems like a pie in the sky idea, but
Yeah, I
absolutely,
mean,
I think
no, well,
those are the things we have to shoot for, right?
yeah, and maybe it'd be fun to do a cast on like what would like what
A world of infinite energy look like.
yeah,
Hmm.
because that unlocks all sort like everything we have is constrained by energy.
Mm.
And that's one of the arguments of diversifying energy is like oil is toxic when you burn it, so like solar isn't. But
Also limited in supply. Yeah,
well,
compared to something like the sun.
theoretically, I mean, I don't.
We like that word today.
Well,
Theoretically, yes.
I mean, there's some people have ideas that it is part or it is produced by a geothermal process. And so
Okay,
like
I was
as the
not
crust is
cognizant. I
recycling,
was not aware of this.
it's a
Okay.
little out there, but I did come
Mm.
across it and I thought about it and I'm like, why not? I don't, at this point, everything's relative. So, but so the idea is that uh oil is effectively deconstituted carbon. So it's a bunch of dead stuff.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Plants and
Yeah.
animals, typically, it can be other sources of carbon, don't have to be alive. Um, and then it becomes liquefied
Hmm.
because it's underground. And if it stays there for too long,
Under
it
that
becomes
pressure. Yeah.
coal.
Yeah.
And if it stays for too much longer, then it becomes diamonds. Right? Because
Yes.
that's
Yes.
carbon.
Right. Right. Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah,
being
that's perfect.
very
Yeah.
generalizing here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
idea is that it was at one point living or like stuff. It got compressed, became oil. We drill it up, we boil it, we burn it, whatever. We refine it. Coal is kind of the same idea, or maybe it's coal is not oil. I don't remember. There's a hierarchy. But anyway, uh, and so the idea is that geothermal processes will renew that in quotes, and I'm using quotes because I think it's kind of a bullshit idea, but it's also
Mhm.
like we've been running out of oil for like the whole time, and we just keep finding more of it. And yes, we have to go to like harder places to get it, but at the same time, like Saudi Arabia doesn't seem to be running out of oil anytime soon, and they just keep like pumping. They have one of the biggest proven oil reserves in the
Right.
world. Um, and I'm not advocating for it. I want to be clear too, is I think burning something that produces a toxic gas is like a bad thing.
Hmm.
You don't have to get political about it. I'm just like, there's a better way to do it. Let's do it. Like,
Right.
um, so yeah, I don't
So
know. I think it'd be fun to do unlimited energy or like what how could the world be changed for the better? Because that's one of the things
Yeah.
with AI too, right? Theoretically, if you had unlimited energy, you could build unlimited chips, and then you're constrained by space. Like, how much space do we have on the
Yeah, I was gonna
planet?
say there's a pace layering effect where even if you
Yeah,
had a limited energy, there are other infrastructural things you need to build out which take time that you can't just instantly magically click, snap your fingers and happens, even if you had
yeah,
unlimited energy, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So then but then it becomes, I think, a battle of what do you do with the space,
There's to put it this
right?
way, there's always going to be some resource out there that is limited, whether it's energy or
Space-time bending,
space.
Nathan.
Space, exactly. If you had unlimited energy, you could bend space time,
Then
so
you just
space would
stack
not
it.
be a concern
You,
anymore.
you put
Exactly.
it in other dimensions. And I'm joking a little bit, but I'm also not joking because, again, if you can bend space time, things get really fucking weird. And now all of a sudden you're shifting. I mean, that's one thing we didn't really talk about is interdimensionality and like how you can actually move through dimensions and time and stuff. And it gets really nutty.
Well, we touched a little bit upon it with wormholes, but that was the idea,
Yeah.
right? Like that, yeah. That once you get outside of the realms of what we understand to be how the world works, and
Or can
again,
perceive. Like
yeah,
again,
yeah,
mathematically, we've proven a lot of this stuff, but it's like, I don't know, if it's real, fuck if we can understand it.
yeah, yeah.
I think
That's
that's the
also
other
interesting.
problem is like we've developed to understand what we can react to in the physical world. Anything outside of this is really pretty new.
Yeah, yeah.
And our
The
biology
theoretical
probably hasn't
versus
caught up yet, frankly. Like, will we get there someday? Maybe, I don't know. But like your brain,
oh, to yeah,
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 your brain is designed to be like running through the woods and not die or get hurt and
right.
find food. And then we've evolved through culture and all this other stuff. And like, it can do all sorts of other things, but like this like idea of like quantum reality is only like 100 years old
Only 100 years old. Yeah, I
ish,
mean, honestly, we kind of know a lot about it for being 100 years old, to be honest. But
which is all the more reason if there's aliens, we should have the smartest people working on them.
yeah. If there's, let me rephrase it. If there's a technology that aliens or that we're claiming that aliens have access to, yes, we should put the
Yeah.
smartest people on it.
Right. I want the smartest people. But yeah. So yeah. Do we have to know everything? Maybe not. But like, let's like, you know, kick the
There's
door
something
open
good
a
with
little
it.
bit
Yeah.
more and get the smart people involved in it and just let them fucking go because they'll figure it out. I have no doubt in that, right? If we get the bunch of smart
Yeah.
people in a room, it'll get figured out.
That's yeah, strangely maybe not strange is not the right word, but it's very optimistic, which is good, which is nice. A nice way to end
Yeah.
it on a good note. Put enough smart people in the room and they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Right. Done. Easy.
Absolutely.
Just
Absolutely.
a lot of cola. Yeah. Whiteboards.
Cola. I thought I didn't know. It took me a second to realize what you were trying. I was thinking coffee, but sure, cola
Oh
works.
yeah. I mean, not everyone's into coffee though. And like the nice thing with
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
fair.
cola is you get like sugar and caffeine.
Mm.
And with like you get that with a latte, but then you get the fat and you get kind of full.
I mean, I'm sure the smart people will figure out what the beverage of choice is for the
I
optimal
never
efficiency
thought
of a
we would
good
be
smart
off
people.
the rails on the alien podcast.
uh, well, here we are. Here we are.
All right. Well, if you're tuning in, we're new on Twitch today. We don't normally talk
Yes.
about UFO, UAP, aliens and shit, but we did. We usually yeah.
It's a new audience, so if there's something you guys want to talk about, we Andrew and I talk for hours on random stuff, so we'd be happy to talk about random things that you guys want to talk about
Yeah,
as
and I
well.
apologize if anyone's actually in the chat. I don't have them open. We need to figure out a way to. So we started as just audio only, and we started doing video, and then we started doing live on YouTube, and now we're doing live on Twitch, and it's too much for me to manage and then also talk intelligently. So I need to figure out a solution to like. So I guess the goal of 3.8 has always been to have collaborative
Yeah,
discussions. And it's hard to do in a big setting, but the chat is one way that we do want to do that. So I think for next week, I'll have a solution for chat.
I was gonna say you should build an AI bot that does this management of the chat.
Yikes. Maybe. I mean, I want to actually interact with it. It's just for me, it's like just personally, I guess, like I want to be engaged and I'm like focused on you and what you're saying and like thinking and like hopefully saying
Yeah,
some intelligent shit. And if I'm reading on the side, I'm like, I'm all over the place. And so it's like, I don't know. I keep joking I need a producer, but I kind of need to actually we've had a producer in the past who's helped.
It was just one time, but
occasionally.
that was very smooth.
That was great. Yeah, because and then they can kind of help, do the managing and then flag us for stuff. Because that's the thing is I want to be able to actually intelligently engage with that too. So we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
It's evolving.
we're learning. Yeah, we're learning.
Maybe I'll just talk to the aliens.
And have them do it for us. Because we matter that much.
I mean, if they can bend space time, they can figure out fucking Twitch and YouTube chat.
Exactly. No, it'll be totally unique. To
it'll be the one problem that we'll have intergalactic war because it'll be an unsolvable problem. So anyway, thanks for the folks who tuned in live, and I'm sorry if the chat